and welcome to Blindway Business News, where today we're talking about gemstones. We're joined by Ian Harebottle, who some investors may recall from his involvement with the highly successful Gemfields and Tanzanite One. But Ian is here today to tell us about his new venture, which is All Star Minerals. All Star is listed on the Aquis market. Ian, welcome onto the show. Before we get into any detail, give us a bit of background, please, on All Star Minerals.
Super. Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much for having me here with you. Thank you for the kind introduction as well. All Star Minerals, as you rightly said, is listed on Aquis. We've been listed for a number of years now. And our initial modus operandi was looking for vehicles within the resource sector specifically that we can invest not only cash, but effort and direction as well, and strategic input, and generate shareholder value. I joined the company in August of last year together with Richard Lloyd. And soon afterwards, with our involvement in the business, a few changes have taken place, including restructuring the board and bringing Graham Maskell on as an independent non-executive chairman. Also, we've been working really hard in the background. You know, a lot of things that are not immediately apparent to shareholders, but we've signed heads of terms with two different opportunities. One is in the colored gemstone space, something I have a lot of experience, and the other one is in the diamond space. And we're hoping within the next little while to start doing some due diligence on these projects where we have heads of terms, and hopefully get more seriously involved and invested into these businesses.
Well, Ian, you've recently signed two heads of terms. I think that was in May of this year. One with a diamond company, one with a gemstones company. Tell us what drew you to those possible investments, and what was the strategy and what was the thinking behind them?
Yeah, certainly. So both of them, they're slightly different because one is within the diamond space, the other is within the colored gemstone space. So sometimes people might think they're slightly different, but yet there's elements of similarity. They both meet our criteria where they require limited initial capex to acquire and limited opex to get into positive and significant positive production and revenue flows, I believe. But more importantly, they're also of a relatively smaller scale. I think back to when I was CEO of Tanzanite One, compared to some of the bigger listed gemstone and companies at the moment. Tanzanite One was really small, and yet we were paying a dividend twice a year. On every reporting period, we were the highest dividend payer on AIM. So it's possible to really be profitable and successful with a smaller business. But more importantly, focusing on specific smaller projects means we are able to contain our social impact. We're able to have a much more direct and meaningful positive impact on our communities and our shareholders. We're specifically looking for projects where the local communities can actually become partners in our business. And also by being relatively smaller projects, it's going to be way easier for us to track our production all the way from the source through to the end user. And that's becoming increasingly important. You know, we all hear ESG, sustainability, etc., but the actual ability to show a meaningful difference from the beginning to the end and to be able to trace it throughout is becoming critical and a real differentiating factor. And I think it's difficult. I'm not blaming the bigger companies, but as much as they try, it's really hard when you're producing millions and millions of carats on an annual basis. When you're producing select, targeted, smaller volumes, it's much easier to trace it through and to really show the positive impact. So, you know, those ESG elements is also critical and part of why we've selected these assets.
Okay, let's talk about the industry in the round, in the industry in general. I mean, I was reading something last week about the inventories at some of the major diamond and gemstone companies being very, very low. With your experience, Ian, what's your view on prices, the markets, and the current trends?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was talking earlier about the negative impact of COVID. That was predominantly on the producers, on the mining companies, because COVID, when you're operating under COVID conditions with large employee bases, considerable costs, OPEX on a monthly basis, a lot of those companies were forced to shut down operations, one, to protect the health of the employees, two, to protect their bottom line because they put the employees on half time or reduced hour rates, etc. So that improved the balance sheet and saved life, but it did mean that production came to a standstill for more than 18 months. A lot of us thought that the same would be true from retail perspective. Luxury goods, gems, jewelry is something you like to wear when you're going out for dinner, going to big shows, and you can show off to other people. And the high street shopping experience walking down Bond Street is second to none. And COVID stopped us from having those experiences. But very pleasingly, we discovered that despite the impact of COVID, online retail sales of jewelry and other luxury goods has done extremely well. So if demand has increased and production has reduced, of course, there's been a negative impact on supply, and that has a commensurate positive impact on demand and achievable prices. So as I said earlier, this is definitely a sector that I think has a lot of upside potential in the next while, even more so if you can find the right assets. And I'm a bit like a stuck record, but I think it's really important that require limited capex. And by limited capex, I'm saying below $10 million initial investment, and OPEX of less than $1 million a month, significantly less, targeting maybe even 8 or 9 million a year, and generating maybe 10 million net profit. It definitely is achievable if we do it right and we don't let ourselves get carried away with big corporate overheads, etc.
Ian, I don't know whether you are a traditionalist, but there's a lot of discussion at the moment about the rise of lab-grown diamonds, lab-grown gemstones. What's your view on lab-grown as opposed to mined gemstones?
Tim, I think it's quite simple, and I'm glad you've asked me that question, but I think I've actually had lots of experience in this sector. I think there's a place for all of them. The luxury goods, the gemstone, the jewelry sector is a fantastic sector. It's incredibly passionate. It's really exciting. It's very unique. It's never boring. And there's place for all of each and every commodity. And so often people will come, but there's no place for lab grown, or there's no place for Swarovski, or there's no place for cubic zirconia. I know with my background mainly in colored stones, whether it was tanzanite or amethyst or emeralds or rubies, I'd often meet people and they say, diamonds is king. There's no place for colored stones because the whole industry is driven by diamonds. And that shows their ignorance. Because the truth is, if you look back in history of mankind, colored stones, amethysts, tourmalines, topaz, aquamarines were valued and revered by mankind long before diamonds were even recognized. Diamonds were the new kid on the block. De Beers did a very good job of marketing and promoting diamonds. We all know that. And all of a sudden, everything was turned on its head. And the consumer now thinks that diamonds are the best and everything else is secondary. That's nonsense. There's a place for each and every one of them, just like there's a place for high-end jewelry from Bond Street and Pandora jewelry that you're going to wear on an everyday basis, and also Swarovski. And that's where lab-grown diamonds come in. There's a 100% a place for natural stones. There's certain selling opportunities, certain personal opportunities maybe are better aligned with natural gems. But by the same token, natural gems, the costs are going up and up and up as one has to mine deeper and deeper and deeper. They have a potential negative impact on environment and social dynamics. And there's definitely a place for lab-grown diamonds. Lab-grown diamonds done in the right way, with the right disclosure and ethical route to market, there's 100% a place, and a very exciting place, because it means that diamonds suddenly are more accessible to a broader range of the population, and they have more buying choice, buying opportunity.
Ian, I'm sure the viewers would love to hear you talk about diamonds and gemstones and get some more insight from you, but I should really drag you back to All Star Minerals. What can we expect in the coming months in terms of news flow coming out of All Star Minerals?
Yeah. Well, okay, so thank you for bringing me back. It's probably just as well you did. As you can see, I'm clearly passionate about the gemstone sector. And I always remind people that diamonds are actually a gem. We shouldn't really separate or differentiate from the two. But anyway, back to All Star. I'm hoping, as I said, I joined a year ago. There was some news flow for a short period of time. It then became a little bit quiet as we were working in the background. Hopefully news flow can be more steady and more regular and very much more positive over the next little while. Specifically, we're looking to finalize some arrangement we have in terms of accessing the finance required to complete the due diligence necessary on the projects where we've signed heads of terms. Then we want to start doing the due diligence, whether that's geological or technical or legal, and ownership, financial, and then we'll make a decision. And obviously we'll be updating the market all along the way and leading towards a serious investment into one, if not both, of the target assets. And then potentially not just an investment, but considering a more active, involved future for All Star Minerals, which might mean that we have to change our current value proposition from investment to actually operations, but we'll keep the shareholders fully updated all along the way. But I certainly believe the next 6 months is going to be a roller coaster ride and really exciting one, and lots of positive things happening within the company.
Well, thanks, Ian, and you must come back and keep us updated on your progress. That was Ian Harebottle, Chief Executive of All Star Minerals. All Star is listed on the Aquis market with the ticker of ASMO. That's it from Blytheway Business News for this edition. Thanks for watching.